welcome everybody to episode 108 of Accents on Trial. Phil, can you guys hear me okay? Let me know in the comment section if you guys can hear my audio fine. Let's see. So for today's episode, hopefully this won't be too boring. I haven't listened to most of the video, but I'm going to be responding to this guy. Okay, great. I'm going to be responding to this guy who I met on TikTok and has basically been harassing me ever since in a very kind of concerning way. Like, it hasn't affected me in any way, but what's concerning is the guy's mental state. Like, he's very clearly unhinged from his behavior. Yeah, Barter Outpost. That's his username. And he had made a video called "The Best Argument for God," which I might show as well if there's enough time, or I might go over that with J Mike when he comes back. But so we had started an exchange on a video of his, and he was incredibly condescending and very, very aggressive from the beginning. And I'm the kind of person that I tend to meet energy with energy, like not all the time, but it can happen that way. I have very little patience for unearned arrogance and intellectual dishonesty, and the guy was both. And this person is a incredibly amazing example of pure projection. So he'll say, I'll show some of the comments where he'll say things like, I like how you're obsessed with me, or talking about how that I went to his page to harass him and insult him, that I was aggressive and offensive. Meanwhile, he's the one, I blocked him on my main account on TikTok, and he tagged me on my second account, like, while saying that I'm harassing him. And it was so bad that even other theists, like Christians, who if anything should view me as an enemy of sorts, came into my defense, because they know that I'm not the kind of person that this guy was painting me as. So I'm trying to think of how to explain. Well, here, let me. There we go. So yeah, so he calls me a megalomaniac. He calls me all these things, and yet he made like an hour long video about me, despite saying that I'm the one who's obsessed. And I'm gonna play this. Tell me if you guys can hear it, okay? Then maybe I'll read you guys some of the comments as well. 1 sec. Try to get this working. Hey, Oz, how you doing? Hanging in there. But yeah, so let me see if. Can you guys hear this?
Atheist megalomaniac. So this will be a somewhat different video than my usual fare, responding.
Okay, so can you guys hear that okay? What I just started playing? Okay, cool. So, and I'll pause it when I feel it's necessary. So his video is called "How to Deal with an Atheist Megalomaniac," responding to this individual here. And obviously, he has a video
to this individual here, a TikToker going by the name of @Ceasetoknow. On YouTube, he's apparently part of the Axioms on Trial channel. Before getting into the nitty-gritty, a quick disclaimer. The title of this video is not meant to disparage atheists or atheism in general. Rather, it serves to highlight a fundamental problem within the atheist community, one that this TikToker @Ceasetoknow exemplifies. Just as there are slews of mentally troubled and unhinged religious folk, so too are such afflictions present amongst various atheists.
Right. So Um, this is coming from somebody who has literally left me hundreds of comments insulting me on his own video and on my videos, who has now made an hour-long video about me, and who has sent me novels of DMs, talking all kinds of shit and being incredibly arrogant. But I'm the one with the mental illness. In fact, let me see if I can also. Well, I'll show those later. But
contrary to the kooky religiosos, whose absurdities arise from ignorance and fear, derangement in atheist circles stems from intellectual fragility. This fragility, as in the case of Ceasetoknow, often turns pathological, provoking a constant need to demonstrate intellectual superiority over others.
okay, this is what's hilarious, right? He's saying that I'm fragile. I asked him to debate me. He refused. Um, the in the very beginning where we started interacting, he immediately started being condescending, talking down to me, and saying things like, "Oh, I guess you can't debate, or you lost the debate from the beginning," or saying very like, again, I'll at the end I'll go to the comments and show you specifically. But this is what I mean by a severe level of projection. He's the one who's made endless comments about me, saying that I'm obsessed with him, um, while engaging in this way. So,
on matters related to atheistic positions. A condition that approximates this pathology is megalomania, where an individual not only develops delusions of superiority, but incorporates such delusions into their existential integrity. Thus, when these delusions are challenged and shattered, as occurred with Ceasetoknow, they
so his argument for God is incredibly embarrassing, and he didn't shatter anything. It was just the usual nonsense that we've all heard a million times. And I will go over the video as well. If not this time, definitely with J Mike. But he didn't shatter anything. He used the same ignorance about physics that I've heard a million times. And when I responded to to his arguments, he just doubled down. He didn't actually address the points I was making. He didn't understand the points I was making. He just repeated what he already stated prior, and pretended there was some issue there that there wasn't, and met me with attacks and insults and this kind. So everything he's describing right now and saying that I've done, this is all him. This is pure projection. Um,
experience a fundamental attack on their personhood, causing them to lash out with desperate projections, deflections, and personal attacks, including veiled threats of violence.
that is also severe mental illness. Um, Nowhere did I ever threaten him with violence at all. Um, all I ever said to him was, and he twisted my words, was that I can't believe people like you exist and can function. And he changed that in his need to feel, to his victimhood mentality. He's twisted that to be me saying that he shouldn't be alive. So like this is just insanity, displayed on a screen. Oh yeah, I should play the Benny Hill theme while showing the sheer amount of his comments. Uh, so I never threatened him with violence at all. And anybody who knows me, atheist or theist, knows that I don't engage in conversations or debates from a point of ego. And if somebody proves me wrong on something, unlike what this moron is claiming, I have no problem acknowledging if I've made a mistake or if I thought incorrectly about something. He came nowhere near doing that, not even close. And when I challenged him to debate me one on one, he pussied out. This is what most theists on TikTok that I engage with, who talk all kinds of shit online, when challenged, will back up, will back out, will not engage in a debate in front of an audience because they're scared. So
What follows is a comprehensive refutation of Ceasetoknow's posted videos on this issue, including a dissection of his initial failed rebuttal to my argument. But first, a quick background on how we got here. I posted this video regarding belief in God, presenting the strongest possible argument justifying such belief. If you are interested in watching it, there is a link in the comments below. I politely invited this TikToker, @Ceasetoknow, an atheist who regularly streams live, to check the video out.
That's also a lie. He didn't politely invited it anywhere. It was actually Guido who tagged me in his video. So that's the first. That's one of many lies that he tells. And immediately, from my initial responses, he was a complete asshole. There was no politeness anywhere. And the comments are there. Like, you can all go through to the video, and maybe I'll post it in the description, the link to the description, to see what things he started off saying towards me. Again, this is pure victimhood mentality and cowardice.
When he had time. The first thing he posted on the video, which he has since deleted, was, "This is a terrible argument. No civil or intellectual engagement, no rational inquisitive."
I never deleted it. I never deleted that at all. I fully acknowledge I said that. It is a terrible argument.
Just immediate open hostility and aggression.
So me saying a terrible argument is open hostility and aggression. Talk about a oversensitive, like, no, I'm describing what I think about your argument. How is that open hostility and aggression?
But this was just the beginning. After posting a multitude of comments and videos about the argument and realizing that he had no valid retort against.
False. I had a perfectly valid retort, and it's him who doesn't understand what his argument actually entails, or didn't actually understand my perspective at all.
He degraded into a manic fury, spewing direct ad hominem personal attack.
There was no fury. It takes a lot. Guido says, he ran from a debate while claiming you are scared of him, while also saying you physically threatened him. Very logical to me. This is how hilarious this is to me. He's claiming that he got me so angry, or that I spiraled into a fury. Meanwhile, there was no emotion for me. Like, I found it amusing to trigger this lunatic the way that I did. There was no anger. He claimed that one thing he said that was ridiculous was that I made a 2-minute video on New Year's in response to one of the things he said, and he said that he had ruined my New Year's, that I'm so obsessed that I can't think of anything but the destruction that I suffered from him. Meanwhile, he's claiming that I'm the one that has a superiority complex, while he's saying those kinds of things. So, ad hominem personal attacks. Well, I said things I believe. After the conversation had spiraled into his insanity, I called him delusional, and I called him a weakling. And I stand by both of those statements. I have no problem acknowledging that. That's exactly what he is. So.
You're delusional. You are a weakling.
Exactly. Yes,
followed up by streams of direct messages with veiled threats of violence.
Streams of direct messages. So let me see if I can find. Again, after this, I'll show you the TikTok video I posted of me responding in 1 or 2 sentences, and him responding with paragraphs of DMs, insulting me, talking shit, making accusations, being arrogant, condescending. At no point was there any veiled threat of violence. This is mental illness. This is a need to be a victim.
Namely, you should not exist.
Never happened.
And keep in mind,
never said that, ever. So that is another lie.
This is just a fraction of the projected hysteria from @Ceasetoknow. The vast majority of his comments and messages have since been removed by him, me, or TikTok.
I never removed any comment. So if TikTok removed it, or he removed it to try to make himself in a better light, I don't know, but I've never removed anything. Anything that I have or say, I leave up there. Even if sometimes I recognize that I may have said the wrong thing to somebody, I don't, go back and pretend like I didn't say it.
I only decided to make this video response after he began projecting his threats onto me.
No, he decided to make this video response because he can't stand the fact that he got embarrassed publicly, and that everybody in his comment section came to my defense, and he couldn't handle being told that he was wrong. So again, all this is just him projecting his mental illness onto me,
falsely accusing me of the same. Otherwise, I would have saved every demented post he wrote. This is not an isolated occurrence for Mr. Ceasetoknow. His TikTok is littered with aggressive confrontation, condescension, and general acrimony against anyone who disagrees with him.
So again, this is another lie. Yes, I have videos where I respond to people's comments. Sometimes it's in an aggressive way, if the person I'm dealing with is being a complete asshole, or sometimes it's a perfectly respectful way, and we have a simple conversation. Again, anybody who knows me, who's familiar with this content in this channel, who's familiar with my TikTok account and the lives that I have on TikTok, can see for themselves hours worth of content of me being perfectly civil with people who see the world completely differently than I do. So I don't have a problem, even remotely, with disagreement at all. What I have a problem with is clueless and arrogant and delusional people talking shit online who then are too scared and incompetent to back up their claims and to defend their claims, who instead want to make excuses about why they're running away. In his case, claiming that I threatened his life, which never happened anywhere. And I asked him, post the comment, show the evidence that I've done this. If you say that I didn't just threaten you once, but I threaten you consistently, how is it that you cannot show one example of it, other than a lie that you quoted that never happened? So,
not to mention the countless videos from other TikTokers responding to his sadistic malice. His MO is always the same. Whenever he loses an argument or runs up against any serious opposition, he degrades into open insults and...
yes, so that's not true. First of all, I'm still waiting for to actually lose an argument with this TS on TikTok. That's never happened. And no, I respond to people the way that they deserve to be responded to. If they approach me respectfully, I will address them respectfully. Sometimes I'll manage to respond to them respectfully, even if they've approached me disrespectfully. Depends on how I'm feeling that particular day. When it comes to idiots like him, I had to put him in his place the way that he deserved to be put in his place, and he couldn't handle it.
To mockery. And when his opponents object, he falsely accuses them.
By the way, to even find any of these comments, this lunatic had to go through my entire account, like a year's worth of videos, to try to quote mine things I've said on other videos. This was pure obsession. This is how obsessed this guy is with me, that he had to go through this entire ordeal of finding videos on other people's pages, comments on other people's pages, to try to make a whole case against me.
Of rejecting and being delusional. When that fails, his depravity leads him to racism and
okay, this is hilarious.
Even mocking.
So, let's deal with the accusation of racism. Well, which comment? Because there is one comment on here which I should not have said, and I acknowledge that. So yeah, I'll address this first. The one comment when I was dealing with another slavery apologist, another condescending little bitch who was too scared to debate, he said, or I said in response to him, wait, where is it? Okay, this is too easy. It's like I'm picking on a mentally disabled at this point. Good luck to you. And I ended the conversation that I was having with that guy. And I wasn't trying to make fun of mentally disabled people. That was not the intention of what I said there. I was not trying to be ableist with that comment. Basically, what I was saying was that the person I was talking to was not fit to have that conversation. that he seemed to me like he was incapable of connecting the dots. I phrased that in a way that was offensive, and I can see how, even though my intention was not to be ableist, how it could be interpreted that way. So, like I said, I acknowledge when I make a mistake. That was a comment that I should have phrased better, and that I shouldn't have said it that way. So I have no problem acknowledging that and admitting that. That's fine. I'm not never claimed to be perfect. I'm just a human. I can make mistakes. I can learn from those mistakes, and hopefully, don't not make those mistakes again. Um, I again, I know who I am. I know what my intentions were. So him pointing this out like it's some kind of exposure or exposing me in some way. Uh, I made a video on my own page showing what I had said. That's how little, I'm scared of acknowledging and owning up to what my behavior is. It's not what he's painting overall. Now, to the racist accusation, this is how delusional he is. And this is actually what got me into making videos on TikTok in the first place, was that I was engaging with a black American who was making excuses for slavery and making excuses for the horrible behavior of Christians and Christianity as a whole. And what I said to this individual was, it is, let me see exactly, because I think it's right there. It's even sadder that you as a black man think it's reasonable to defend owning people on any level. And the other comments that I made in that conversation was that I would expect from someone who's part of minority group, who knows the history, and not just the history, but experiences systemic racism and bigotry on a daily basis, that he should have had more empathy towards issues like slavery, towards the mistreatment of other minority groups like the LGBTQ community, and that it's I find it particularly hypocritical for someone who should know better to not know better. And this guy called me a racist for saying that, twisted my words around to claim that I think all black people should think the same, which is laughable. Is white privilege a thing or is it not? Because the same guy that I had a discussion with goes on and on about white privilege, and then when challenged, wants to pretend like he that it's racist of me to expect someone in his position to have a better understanding of racial relations in this country. And it's racist of me to point it out. So, and this other moron I'm dealing with had to go over all the way back to my first video that I had made in response to the other person, and accuse me of racism, and accuse me of mocking the mentally handicapped, which again, that's not what I did at all. So, and I don't know if I'm gonna get through this whole fucking 40-minute video. It's a waste of time, but
the mentally handicapped. This is the megalomania that plagues parts of the atheist community. When they cannot satisfy their need for intellectual dominance, that is, when they realize that they have lost a fundamental debate.
Yeah, so again, nobody lost anything to you. You had your ignorance, both philosophically and scientifically, exposed by multiple people, not just me, on your video, and you went on to insult all of them and to talk down on all of them. And when you're met with the same kind of attitude, now you want to claim victimhood. It's pathetic.
They experience a sort of mental collapse or psychotic break, leading to crazed hostility and violent verbal abuse. An analogous existential crisis occurs among some religious people. When they fail to rationalize or justify their baseless religious convictions, they resort to open or veiled threats of hell for non-believers. Or worse, none of this is too surprising, given how much these individuals are invested in their worldviews. Similarly, when Ceasetoknow realized that he had no defense for his position.
That never happened. My defense for my position stands perfectly fine, and he had no actual credible retort whatsoever. So that's another lie.
His coping mechanism was to attack and threaten me, and then project that onto me to escape.
I didn't project anything. Again, all of you can go to the video and see the things he says to people. So I wasn't. He's the one projecting, and I didn't threaten anybody. So
Accountability. There are generally two ways one can respond to such attacks: ignore them, or, as I prefer, to return their hostility tenfold. There should be no place for such demented aggression in civil discourse. It should be mercilessly challenged and dissected at every turn, until it collapses in on itself, undone by its own vehemence. That is exactly what happened with Ceasetoknow, and this video response will serve to make an example out of him for the benefit of anyone who comes across his channel or mine.
So again, this is another example of just the delusion of grandeur that this guy has. He sees himself as some kind of hero of the theist community, bringing down the great villain Ceasetoknow and exposing me as being this monster, claiming I'm projecting when it's all him. And again, the evidence is there. Like, you can all go see what his video says and how bad of an argument that is, and watch people tear him into pieces in the comments.
Or, in other words, exposing the toxicity that plagues atheistic discourse. Civility is a two-way street, kiddo. The moment you fail to reciprocate,
you were never civil at all. This is the irony. I met you with the same attitude you met me with. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
one has every right and reason to return fire against your self-serving animosity. You're going to learn to take loss maturely. You're going to learn that it's not okay to call people delusional and weakling.
You see, you know that me calling him those things triggered him so bad. And now he has to puff up his chest and say, you're going to learn this, and you're not going to make me do anything. You're just another guy too scared to engage, too scared to debate, talking shit behind a screen, with a what is that? With an inferiority complex. That's what he suffers with, and he needs to make himself feel like a big man, and so he says things like, "You're gonna learn to do this," or "I'm gonna make you learn." You're not gonna do anything. The only thing you're showing is that you're a coward. That's it.
Every time you lose an argument, even when it renders your worldview as categorically unreasonable. You're going to learn that it's not okay to vomit up depraved attacks whenever someone refutes your perspective, only to then play the victim to escape responsibility for those attacks.
Again, pure projection. Where am I playing the victim? I acknowledge that I called you those things, deservingly so, because that's exactly what I think of you. How am I playing the victim? Victim of what? Yeah, you started harassing me. You started leaving me waves of DMs and hundreds of comments, and tagging people who followed me who don't even know who you are, with your own nonsense to try to turn people against me. I'm not a victim here. Like, I don't give a shit. Guido says, I'm pretty sure these crazy amount of comments are equivalent to throwing smoke in the air, muddy the water, so he can claim philosophical victory. I had forgotten all about this guy until he started tagging me on my second account. So
you're going to learn all of this, and I will teach you. This is for everybody, Mr. Ceasetoknow. All the TikTokers you've abused and demeaned on here to gratify your overgrown ego. I've tagged all of them to this video so they can witness the disintegration of a disgraceful megalomaniac.
I mean, this is just hilarious. Like, I'm a disgraceful megalomaniac because I hold people accountable to claims they make that they can't defend. Like, I called him out for exactly what he is, in return to his condescension and behavior, and now I'm a disgraceful megalomaniac.
I asked you numerous times to apologize for your degeneracy, to retract your projections of such degeneracy.
I have nothing to apologize for. You remain the same idiot that I called you. You're somebody who is unstable, and who cannot handle being put in your place. And so you have to do what you have to do to feel better about yourself while claiming that I'm the one navigating from a point of ego.
Onto me in your recent videos. You refused. No problem. You have every right to express yourself in such manner if you wish, and I have every right to tear your expressions apart with basic reason. And now, let's...
Nothing you've said, whether in your videos or in our conversations, have shown an ounce of reasonableness. You're one of the most irrational, delusional people I've ever encountered anywhere. And this has been a good example of that.
Get into the aforementioned dissection of Ceasetoknow's depredations, beginning with his initial response to my substantive argument. By the way, I responded to his videos in the comments section, but he then decided to block me to avoid further debate.
Okay, this is another lie. He says that I blocked him to avoid further debate. I asked him to come on my live and debate me in front of my entire audience. I asked him to come on my YouTube channel and debate me in front of my YouTube audience. I asked him, I said, I will go on your YouTube channel and debate you on your channel if you're too scared to come on mine. He refused, said he refused because I was a megalomaniac who threatened him, and yet he continued to harass me and send comment after comment. I blocked him because he was spamming my shit, and it was just annoying. So yeah, once I realized this guy is delusional, functioning in bad faith, and a waste of my time, I decided to block him, not as a way to avoid debate, but because he had chosen to not debate me. Interesting. Captain Deadpool says, I've never had someone come after me like this, and I've been way more mean to people. Yeah, I think part of it is just bad luck, right? Like, sometimes you encounter people that are just that mentally ill, who just cannot handle being told that they're wrong. So,
justifying the block by falsely accusing me of threatening him.
No, it wasn't a false accusation. In fact, I showed the DM where it was a threat. He said, even though he was the one messaging me over and over and over and over, he said to me, if you don't stop harassing me, what was here, let me look up exactly what it said. Because I have a video of it. Let me see. Where is it? Hold on. Sorry. Apparently the video got taken down. Let's see. I can. Oh yeah. Okay. He says, concession accepted. Take your L's maturely. You have no defense for persisting in atheism. And tell your leash dogs to stop projecting your lack of intellectual confidence on my videos. This is because people were coming to my defense and owning him in his own videos. Then he says, further harassment will result in retaliation. Now, that's a threat. I'm not saying it's a threat to my life, not at all. But it's some kind of threat. My concern was he's going to get, if he has any followers, he's going to try to shut my account down, to ban my account, to take down my videos, to do whatever. So I wanted to avoid that from happening. And so I blocked him. So he's saying that I was harassing him. I blocked him, figured it would be the end of that, and he decides to tag me on my second account and continue the spiral of this debacle. So here we go.
Then attempted to save face by asking me to debate him live.
I asked him to debate me live from the beginning. So what's saving face? I asked him to debate me live from the beginning. He wouldn't.
While continuing to spew vile invectives and refusing to apologize for his outbursts and threats.
Never threatened you, and there were no outbursts. I simply called you what you are, and I have nothing to apologize for.
Amazing strategy.
So, first of all, the moment that you talk about something being beyond logic and beyond reason, you've already lost.
No, actually, I haven't, and I'll explain the concept to you as simply as possible.
Yes, you have. Because you're using logic to even try to make your argument. So saying that something is beyond logic is laughable.
There is nothing unreasonable about the concept of existential phenomena beyond our comprehension.
Yeah, that's not what the conversation was. I'm not saying that there can't be things beyond our comprehension. That's a different thing than saying that you can talk about it, know what it is, make statements about it. If it's beyond our comprehension, then we are incapable of accessing it or saying anything about it. That was the point. So it's not that it's unreasonable to think that there could be something out there that we're not comprehending. Of course, there are. Um, the problem is when religious people simultaneously want to say that God is beyond our understanding, and then want to say that they understand He exists, they understand what God wants, and all of this. Yeah, exactly. This is how this lunatic contradicts himself every 2 seconds. He's saying, how do you simultaneously run from him while challenging him to a live debate? Again, the whole point is the whole time he's saying I'm running. Meanwhile, he's rejecting my request to debate. It's insanity.
That is, potential phenomena that are beyond logic. For example, a fruit fly has no ability and never will have the ability to conceive of calculus, much less understand calculus. But this does not mean that calculus does not exist.
Again, so this is what a moron he is. Like, I was never saying any of that. That was not my position. Of course, there are things that could exist beyond our perception. I'm a physicalist. Anybody who knows my background knows that I'm a physicalist exactly because I believe that things exist regardless of how we perceive them. That is not at all my position. What I'm saying is, you can't say that something is beyond logic or beyond our perception, beyond our comprehension, and then talk about that thing, because that to talk about it will require all those things. This is very simple.
Similarly, we can speak on the concept of existential phenomena that are beyond our comprehension. Unlike the fruit fly, which cannot even conceive of the idea of things beyond its understanding, we can.
Conceiving of an idea doesn't mean that it has any grounding in reality. So you can have an idea of God, that doesn't mean that it's anything beyond your imagination. So
there is a distinction between the concept of something beyond comprehension versus discussing the nature or attributes of such a thing.
No, again, discussing the nature of something beyond our comprehension has no basis. That would just be completely speculative. So that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. If something is beyond our comprehension, what grounds do we have? How is it rational to talk about the nature of something we can't comprehend? Completely self-defeating.
The former is perfectly rational, while the latter is entirely irrational.
No, both are irrational.
Most religions, or at least the Abrahamic ones, exercise the latter, which is why they are ultimately unconvincing. The argument in my video, however, has nothing to do with religion. Thus, by stating you have already...
His video is literally called the best argument for God. So if nothing else, it has to do with theism. And yes, he did already lost by saying what he said.
He lost. You are not only unequivocally incorrect, as I just explained.
You explain nothing except show that you're a moron.
But you are not making any actual counter-argument. You're merely stating, no, that is wrong.
No, I'm talking exactly what I just said. That if something is beyond our comprehension, then you can't talk about it.
Which is empty rhetoric. This is tantamount to concession.
No, it isn't. Just because you don't understand the argument doesn't mean anybody's conceding to anything.
Your misunderstanding of these concepts is further reflected in one of your videos regarding the presupposition of logic. You don't seem to understand that logic is 100% presupposed.
No, it isn't. It's not even remotely presupposed. That's not at all true. If I want to test if a pen works, I test if a pen works. I'm not presupposing anything there. I'm not presupposing logic. Logic is a tool that we use that is secondary to our experience of the world. We recognize intuitively that there are certain patterns that exist, that there are certain things that are self-evident, and we build logic upon those observations. There's no presupposition there.
Presupposition does not have to be a conscious act. It can be a foundational element that defines.
No, this is also false. A presupposition is something you can only do when you already have the tools available to begin with. You can't have a presupposition if you don't have the tools in the first place. So this is more nonsense.
A given system, such as human thought. The only way we
Says who? Like, what makes him an authority on what a presupposition is? That's not how the word is used in the literature whatsoever.
can avoid presupposing logic is if it is established as absolute, which is unattainable due to circularity. But this is mostly academic to the argument here. Whether or not you claim logic is presupposed, we still reach a paradox upon analysis of existential origin.
No, we don't. Now, he's about to say some things that are completely false about physics.
Which in turn leads to the God concept. At no point have you...
No, it doesn't. Any failure of a worldview does not show that your worldview is true. So that's also bullshit.
You provided any counter to this whatsoever other than screaming no, no, no and projecting your hostility.
Because at that point, you're not providing an argument anymore. You're just making statements. To say that God is where logic comes from is just a claim.
No, I provided the argument about why the concept of existential phenomena beyond our comprehension, that is, beyond logic, is not only rational, but
no, it isn't.
Follows from logical analysis.
Literally, look at what he just said. He's talking about going beyond logic, and that this follows from logical analysis. So in the same breath, he's saying that there's this thing beyond our comprehension, beyond our experience, and yet we can know what this thing is. We can talk about the nature of this thing that we can't comprehend, that's beyond logic, and that we can deduce this thing exists from a logical, rational analysis. I've never heard a more contradictory statement out of anybody.
Analysis of the origins paradox. At this point, you're projecting your absence of an argument onto me to deflect from your inability to provide a meritorious retort.
Yeah, not at all. And there is no paradox that he wants to point to.
Tactic you use repeatedly throughout your videos to baselessly reassert your untenable perspective. In other words, you're again screaming no, no, no over and over while pretending to have provided a valid counter.
Again, any of you can go to those videos and look at what the conversation actually was and see how delusional this person is and what a lack of argument he has and how I responded to his nonsense perfectly fine.
Intellectual dishonesty is not a good look, bud.
And I have no reason to accept that.
Yeah, it isn't. That's exactly what you are, incredibly intellectually dishonest.
I provided the reason why the claim is justified.
No, you haven't. You've made up things that you have no basis for.
That is why it should be accepted. Not only did your rebuttal fail to provide any valid retort.
No, my rebuttal showed you that you had no argument, that you were contradicting yourself at every step.
But it is presently being systematically disintegrated. Lying about this to sidestep your lack of rational rejoinder doesn't change anything.
Second, atheism doesn't need to answer any questions about origin. Atheism is a reasonable conclusion due to your failure.
This is a straw man, one of many. I never said atheism has to answer anything. I presented the argument why theism is a more reasonable position than atheism.
Yeah, you didn't. You made claims. You didn't have an argument. And actually, somewhere in the comments, and again, I'll go back to it. You said that atheism fails to explain where we came from. That's what I was responding to.
Theism. Projecting your failure to counter this does nothing.
To actually provide any credible reasoning for theism.
I provided exactly such credible reasoning for theism.
No, you didn't at all.
Merely stating you have not provided credible reasoning is not an argument.
I didn't just state it. I showed you how you didn't provide a credible reasoning or a credible argument.
It is just a dressed up way of screaming no again. Learn to admit when you're wrong about something or when you do not have a valid argument.
Take your own advice.
As opposed to spewing intellectually dishonest projections to cope.
And so if my worldview doesn't account for an origin, it doesn't mean that it gives credibility to your worldview. That's not how that works.
Another straw man. I never said anything about your worldview accounting or not accounting for origin.
This is not true, but regardless.
I have no idea what the exact parameters of your worldview are, aside from your claim to atheism. I presented the argument as to why the origins paradox reasonably leads to the God concept.
It doesn't. Not knowing, again, first of all, there's no paradox. This is another delusion in his mind. But there's nothing about not knowing our origin that makes belief in God reasonable. It's just another God of the gaps argument from ignorance bullshit.
which you are not addressing.
And I addressed it perfectly fine.
To the extent that your worldview is grounded in an atheistic perspective, you have provided no justification for maintaining such a position. I am still waiting for you to provide a single objection on the merits.
I provided several, and I think everyone here can tell. No, he has no ability to actually follow these arguments or to even make a rational argument. What he calls an argument is a complete contradiction. So
that's how that works, my guy.
Third, there is no contradiction or paradox in the idea of infinity or the idea of an origin.
Yes, there is. And I explain exactly why a paradox is reached under both scenarios. That is, whether existence has or does not have a beginning. You're not making an argument by...
There is no paradox. There are models of the universe that don't even require an infinite regress or one origin point, which I tried to say in one of those videos, which he never actually replied to. There are models of the universe that sidestep either issue. Think of it think of a circle. It's not an infinite line backwards. It's a circle, but it is self-contained. There's no one starting point, but it's not an infinite regress either. Not the same kind of infinity that he was having an issue with. And again, our intuitions about infinity being problematic doesn't mean anything. What modern physics is showing us is that we have to leave our intuitions at the door. We want to try to get to understanding reality on the deeper levels.
By merely stating, no, there is not. You're just repeating the opposite and hoping nobody will notice. Did you even watch the video, bud?
Of something.
Yeah, I did, and it was nonsense.
Like time having a beginning. It may be counterintuitive. It may be difficult to comprehend at face value, but it isn't this paradox that you just claimed and didn't actually go into why that would be the case.
I spent the majority of the video explaining exactly why that is the case.
No, you didn't. You made claims that you didn't actually back up in any kind of credible way.
With why a paradox is reached when logically analyzing origins. Now you're not only dodging the argument in my video, but you're directly lying about what it says.
Any of you can go to the video and see how terribly he failed to do what he's claiming he did.
Again, did you even watch the video, my guy? And
yes,
no, it is not a question of counterintuitive or difficult to understand. Logical analysis of origins leads to paradox, as I explained in the video. That is qualitatively distinct from counterintuitive or difficult to understand.
Yeah, it doesn't lead to any of that.
You're piling straw man on top of straw man and outright lying about your interlocutor's position.
No, I'm actually describing the argument perfectly fine and being truthful about your total failure of actually providing an argument.
Are you so pathologically locked in your perspective that you choose to engage in these underhanded tactics just to feel better about having no valid rebuttal? Why do this? Why challenge me with these bare assertions? Why humiliate yourself like this? What's the point of this other than to pacify your inflamed ego?
So the point of this is to call out liars like you, and people who project the way that you do, and people who harass people, who expose your ignorance, because that's what's required at times for people like you. There's not an issue of ego. It's an issue of you saying completely false, philosophically and scientifically ridiculous statements that have no bearing on anything, and pointing that out.
Also, the two options he provided, whether it's either there is a beginning or an infinite regress, are not the only options.
First off, I did not mention the term infinite regress. I said that the only options presented by logic are that existence has always existed, meaning it had no beginning, or that it had a beginning. Those are the only two options that logic presents us with.
So again, he's confused here.
You have a third option that nobody in the history of thought or philosophy has ever considered. Please enlighten us.
That's only because he has a view of time that is grounded in our normal intuitions of time. To say it's always existed is assuming that time is something different than what we understand it to be in physics, a certain kind of feature. I can acknowledge that, for lack of better words, that some aspect of reality must always have existed, but always assumes a kind of temporal dimension, and that is not what I'm saying.
Secondly, you don't seem to realize that replacing infinite regress with circularity is far worse. As I explained in my video, A leads to B and then back to A, or in other words, a contradictory causal loop.
No, circularity is not necessarily always vicious. There's nothing contradictory there.
Which can be described as a circle. You completely sidestep this and pretended that saying circle somehow resolves the origin's paradox, when it does the exact opposite. Like, how do you think this is a valid
It
counterpoint?
doesn't do the exact opposite. There's no contradiction there. I hope you guys in the comments can tell how confused this person is. There's nothing contradictory here. I'm not making a circular argument here. Some things are definitional.
I explain how the paradox is reached, and your response is to say the opposite, with zero reasoning. But again, whether you choose to use the term infinite regress or not has no bearing on the logic of my argument. In either scenario,
his logic of the argument is to look beyond logic. That's his argument.
Beginning or no beginning, we reach a paradox.
There are many models of the universe that don't require either of those things. For example, think of a circle. A circle doesn't have a beginning point.
Correct. A circle does not have a beginning, which means that it falls into one of the two scenarios I mentioned in the video. Either it has a beginning or it doesn't.
No, but again, not having a beginning point is not the same thing as having an infinite regress backwards. That's not what that says. And again, there are other models of the universe as well.
Seriously, did you even watch the video, buddy? You're spewing
Yes, I did, and it was nonsense. I'm not spewing any strawman at all.
nonsense straw man that only affirm my argument's conclusions. If you posit a universe whose geometry or existence is circular, that is, you claim that it never had a beginning, then we reach a paradox. I not only mention
It's not a paradox.
exactly such a scenario in the video, but your circle example makes the logic of my argument even stronger. A leads to B and then back to A.
This is like such a high level delusion. It's unbelievable.
Or, in other words, a circle. And that's not even considering the temporal paradoxes of a circular cosmological frame. The dual-sided arrow I use in the video is just a symbol to illustrate the difference between having a beginning and not having a beginning. It includes all scenarios without a beginning, such as a circle. Thank you for affirming my point.
There's nothing paradoxical about a circle. There's nothing paradoxical about there not being a beginning at all.
Like I said earlier, if you can present an origin scenario other than one having a beginning or not having a beginning, please do so. Your circle scenario falls squarely.
The irony is that he doesn't use this own delusional argument against the existence of his own God. Apparently, this is a paradox for the universe, but it's perfectly fine to say that God didn't have a beginning just by saying things like he exists outside of space and time, which is a totally meaningless sentence.
In the latter, no pun intended. Falsely claiming that it falls in neither of the scenarios I stated changes nothing. Also, just for the record, my argument primarily regarded existence and not simply the universe. This might seem like a trivial distinction, but its importance will become evident in a moment when I discuss your reference to a multiverse or a self-contained universe.
But it's also not a line that goes on forever. It's a circle.
So you first misinterpret the dual-sided arrow in the video as meaning only a line, and then you go on to use that misinterpretation to pretend that you have a cogent counter.
I wasn't referring to... No, you're completely confused. My statement there was not referring to the line you had on that screen. It was referring to the idea of an eternal universe being paradoxical. The idea of an infinite regress. That's what I was referring to. Your line didn't mean anything to me.
Counterpoint. In other words, straw man. The dual-sided arrow is a symbol, my guy. It is meant to illustrate the difference between having a beginning and not having
Yes, I wasn't addressing that symbol at all in what I was saying.
a beginning. Where did I say line? The arrow symbol includes your circle scenario because, as you state, a circle has no beginning point. Again, calling it a circle makes the logic of my argument even more apparent.
No, it doesn't, and I wasn't addressing your symbol. You misunderstood what I was talking about.
Because it more clearly presents a causal loop. The fact that you eventually loop back over prior positions is partly the reason the paradox occurs.
It's not a paradox.
As I mentioned in the video, A leads to B leads to A. You have no argument.
They are models of the universe and look at the universe as a self-contained reality of that sort. And so that would avoid either outcome that you were complaining about.
No, it wouldn't. It does not matter whether the universe is modeled as self-contained or not. The same origins paradox of existence is reached. If a self-contained universe had a beginning, we reach paradox. And if it had no beginning, we also reach paradox. I explained this in the video. You're not responding to my argument. You're scrambling to avoid it with tangential discussion of cosmological topology because you know that you have no substantive counter.
No, it's because your understanding of cosmology is non-existent.
You're too much of a megalomaniac to admit it. As I stated before, the primary term I use is existence, not universe. I only use the term universe when discussing pantheism, since it facilitated exemplification of what pantheism is in that part of my argument. See, it's one thing to go on power trips during your lives, thinking you won arguments against randos whom you eventually block or boot, but it's
The only times I boot anybody is when they spread hate speech, or when they're harassing people, like you have been.
entirely different situation when you're debating against a rational position.
Yeah, so his rational position is to say that everything about existence is paradoxical, that the only way to resolve this problem is to say God. That is his so-called rational position. That what is non-logical is now logical. Is his rational position. This is delusion to the highest degree.
Lastly, on this point, I'm not sure what you mean by complaining. You keep using that word, but you don't seem to know what it means. Presenting a rational argument has nothing to do with complaining. On the other hand, dodging that argument and then lying about it to avoid acknowledging your lack of coherent response would
None of that happened.
probably qualify as a form of complaining. Don't do that, okay?
There are also ideas like the multiverse that would avoid either of the things that you said were the only options.
No, they wouldn't. The multiverse just shifts the question from the universe to the multiverse. It avoids nothing, and it is disgusting how intellectually dishonest you have to be to claim this. You're obviously somewhat intelligent to elect atheism over religion, notwithstanding your mental afflictions and anger issues, so you cannot possibly fail to realize that shifting the question from the universe to the multiverse resolves nothing. This is why I made the distinction earlier between existence and universe, which apparently went straight over your head. How profound does your megalomania have to be to put forward such deceit? This is in line with your deflection referencing a circle. Circular cosmological topology leads to the exact same paradox I mentioned in the video.
None of it leads to the paradox you've imagined and made up in your own head.
You have no valid response, so you latch on to these semantic sophisms to pretend that you do. As I stated previously, learn to admit when you're wrong about something, okay?
Now, I agree with someone like Graham Opping, where I think there is a necessary foundation to reality. So I don't think that something came from nothing.
I don't care what you think is necessary or unnecessary. I care about your arguments, and thus far, you've provided nothing that even remotely weakens my position in the video. On the contrary, you've only affirmed my position.
I don't think nothing is a coherent concept.
Again, you're not addressing any part of my argument. I am very close to concluding that you did not even watch the video in full. I've explained to you why the concept of existential phenomena beyond our comprehension, that is, phenomena beyond logic, is rational. Using
Can you just hear that sentence? Let me go back for a second. How do I do this?
Explain to you why the concept of existential phenomena beyond our comprehension, That is, phenomena beyond logic is rational.
Phenomena beyond logic is rational. Do you guys hear that sentence? How fucking stupid this person is? It's unbelievable.
Using a fruit fly analogy, calculus or quantum mechanics are utterly incomprehensible to a fruit fly. By analogy, the concept of existential phenomena beyond our comprehension presents itself, and I explain how the origins paradox leads to this concept.
Well, I've already been over this. To say that something is beyond our comprehension, there's no problem with the idea that there are things beyond our comprehension. It doesn't mean that we can understand what that is, or talk about it, or have any idea of it, or have any clue of its existence. And all this is an argument from ignorance, and a God of the gaps argument.
If you believe that the concept of nothing is incoherent, then you are again implicitly affirming the conclusions in my video regarding the God concept.
No, I'm not, even remotely. Oppie has this position of a necessary foundation. He's an atheist. So again, this is just delusion.
But there is nothing about there being a necessary foundation that implies anything about time or anything even about causality in the way you're using it.
I explain why paradox is reached in the scenario of existence having a beginning.
No, you didn't. You made straw mans about physics, and you made baseless assertions that you can't defend whatsoever. And you've pretended like these are arguments. And any person who counters those arguments, you've attacked as being mentally ill. That's what you've done.
To wit, an alteration occurred without time, not to mention the implication of non-existence giving birth to existence. The causality issue also leads to paradox in the scenario of existence having no beginning.
No, it doesn't, because causality is an emergent feature of the universe, not a fundamental one.
A leading to B leading to A, not to mention the aforementioned issue of existence without causality. You address none of this. Instead, you just ignore it and say, not the way you're using it. How is that an argument? What does that even mean? You explain and define nothing. Compare that to my argument. I define exactly what is meant by the term God.
No, you didn't.
That is a creationary force beyond logic that is the source of existence.
Which means nothing.
Seriously, is this how you argue? Just pretend that your opponent is a straw man so you can punch him at will without opposition? Did you win a local debate contest or something and feel like you don't need to explain anything to us peasants?
Look how triggered this guy is. No, so he's used words in a way that don't mean anything, like existence outside of space and time. He doesn't apply the same so-called paradoxes to his own notion of God, which somehow can exist, but there's no issue for him with beginning or lack thereof. And I forget what I was going to say. This is just so unbelievably ridiculous.
I mean, this is some grade A megalomania on display here.
You don't seem to understand that in physics, causality is an emergent feature, not a fundamental feature.
Now you're not only projecting your ignorance of physics, but again sidestepping
my ignorance of physics. So I've had hours of interviews with physicists on this channel that you guys can all go back to, who all make this claim that causality is an emergent feature. Even if it was fundamental, it wouldn't lead to the bullshit that he believes in. But there's nothing ignorant here. I'm saying what the consensus is on the matter. And I'm not sidestepping anything. He doesn't have an argument.
My position. Try to understand whether or not you grant that causality is an emergent feature of existence. The same paradox is reached upon logical analysis of origins, leading to the notion of a force beyond logic. If it makes you feel better, you don't have to call this force God.
If there was an issue with any paradox, reality itself could somehow avoid this so-called paradox, because it wouldn't be dependent on logic if you're saying that somehow logic is the issue. But that wouldn't make any sense. That's not an argument. You're literally pretending to be making an argument while saying that we have to do away with the tools of logic that we use to make an argument in the first place.
Call it your foundational force. Oh, wait, you already did, implying that you're really a theist who is simply arguing over the use of the word.
No, because I never say that this force has intention or creative power or will or anything of that kind.
God, as opposed to the logic of the issue. This is beyond petty. If it makes you feel better, kiddo, you don't have to use the word God, because that is what all of this is about, right?
So again, this is the kind of condescension that he deals, or that he the way he engages with people is in this kind of way. And then when people treat him the same way, he complains and whines and plays the victim like a little bitch. I'm feeding you a taste of your own medicine. That's what's happening here. You decided to interact with me in a dishonest way, in an insulting way, and I gave you that same energy back. And now you want to call me a megalomaniac or want to say that I'm driven by ego. You are not okay mentally. You need help. You should probably be on medication. To be so triggered by somebody on the internet that you have to spend all of this time harassing me, lying about who I am, making up threats that never happened. You're unwell. You're not okay. Get help.
Feeling better about yourself after a random nobody dismantled your entire
You dismantled nothing.
existential integrity in 3 minutes.
Also, not that it makes any difference to my argument, but I missed the part in physics class where it's explained how the feature of causality comes into existence. You're so intellectually dishonest that you're not only deflecting from my argument, but making up your own physics as you go along.
And it's unfortunate that this coward will not debate me or come on the channel, because I would love nothing more than the physicists that I've had on this channel educate him on what physics actually says. But of course, he's not going to do that, and he's just going to make excuses.
Just so you can maintain your existential integrity. And again, the hilarious part is that even if one grants causality being an emergent feature, it solves absolutely nothing as far as the origins paradox is concerned. You don't get to say, oh, the universe emerged from a foundational non-causal force, but I refuse to call that force God. You're a sophist, and now you're getting dragged up and down the proverbial field by someone who's got your number.
That's another myth.
Talk about ego. This is what I mean, the projection. Saying I have ego when he thinks that he destroyed me in some kind of way. You are a nobody, and I try to give you a platform to actually express your delusional arguments in real time. Before this spiraled into a going back and forth of insults, and you refuse to do it because, like most theists on that app who talk shit behind a screen, you are cowards. You're little whining cowards.
Conception you're projecting.
Projecting your projections onto your opponent is called meta projection. Don't do that. Secondly, what misconception
Yeah, you're projecting that I'm projecting that I'm projecting. How about that?
are you referring to? Where did I say that causality has to be emergent or non-emergent? In either case,
Misconceptions about physics and philosophy in general, about what logic is doing as a tool. Everything you've said is a misconception. This bullshit notion of paradoxes is a misconception.
logical analysis of origins leads to the
It's not a logical analysis of origins.
same conclusion as in the video. You're deflecting with a red herring to avoid addressing my argument head on. Why? Because you have no valid retort.
You keep saying that theism is the most reasonable explanation, but you've provided nothing to actually show that's the case.
Except that I provided a rational argument demonstrating exactly why theism is more reasonable than
No, you didn't. You said everything ends up being a paradox, therefore we have to move beyond logic, therefore God. That was your argument. Completely embarrassing.
atheism. As we've seen thus far, you have provided nothing to counter this, and now you're projecting your lack of substantive opposition onto me to deflect, which is not surprising, given that my argument decimated your safe world comfort zone.
Other than strawmanning atheism and strawmanning scientific concepts and mathematical concepts like infinity.
Show me where I strawman atheism, scientific concepts, and mathematical concepts. I'll wait. Again, is this really what you do? Project your strawmanning of your opponent's position on top of outright lying and sprinkling in red herrings to distract?
No, that's exactly what is done in his entire argument. And I'll go into detail about how he's failed to understand philosophy and science when I review his original video. But as I have already said, his lack of understanding of how time is understood in physics, how causality is understood in physics, how this idea of paradoxes is simply out of misconceptions of what the science is saying, and the failure of common, intuitions. This is his problem, not mine.
distract the viewer from your intellectual dishonesty, not to mention refusing to take accountability for your vile, nasty personal attacks? I mean,
No, I take full responsibility of the things I've said to you. I have no problem acknowledging those things. I've called you a weakling, which you are. I've called you delusional, which you are. I've called you condescending, which you are. I've called you a liar, which you are. I've called you mentally ill, which you are. What do you mean I don't take responsibility? Everything I've said about you, I 100% believe, because it's how you've behaved. Someone that says, "Don't harass me," and then continues to tag me in his videos on multiple accounts is not all there mentally.
you must have known that you were eventually bound to run into someone who simply refuses to let your psychopathy slide.
Yeah, now I'm a psychopath. Now I'm a psychopath because I called him out on his bullshit.
No point did I strawman anything.
Sure.
You're making a bare assertion of strawmanning without providing a shred of argument to back it up. Like,
I've provided it all the way through.
this isn't elementary school debate. Your failure to understand scientific and mathematical concepts and your failure to understand your own perspective, atheism, does not mean that your opponent is strawmanning any of those things.
Again, I hope you can all, watching this, find the irony in the severe level of projection that's going on here. This is the worst case of projection I've ever encountered.
If you have an actual argument or evidence to the contrary, please present it.
So you've not offered anything of value here.
Except that I have. My video demonstrates, which you apparently didn't watch to completion, that theism is a more reasonable election than atheism. Lying about my argument and projecting your strawmanning has zero value. But more power to you if that's what you need to hear so you can sleep at night. Remember, nobody forced you to engage me. You chose to do so. Take your L's maturely and with dignity instead of thrashing around and throwing a temper tantrum over losing an argument.
Again, this is the severity of his mental state. He's saying that I am trashing in despair because I was wrong and lost an argument against him, and that I should have taken my L's and all this stuff. Again, this is coming from the person who has nonstop tagged me and messaged me and commented on everything I post for the last 2 months. He should be psychoanalyzed as like he would win the world record of projection in one person.
Nothing wrong with losing an argument. It doesn't make me better than you. Rather, it gives you opportunity to learn from the discussion. Take that opportunity instead of attacking people in hopes of reconstituting your shattered worldview.
Yeah, again, more ego. He thinks that his terrible arguments shattered my worldview, and I've been in an existential spiral ever since, and that is why I called him an idiot. No, I called you an idiot because you're an idiot. You haven't shattered anything. All you've shown is that you're ignorant of science, ignorant of philosophy, can't construct an actual argument, or pretend like theism is rational, somehow after claiming that God is beyond logic. It's embarrassing. I feel secondhand embarrassment from you. For you. Let's see. Yeah, Titan. This is very thinly veiled ad homs. Yeah, this is just, he claims that I attack him, and eventually, clearly, of course I did, but it was in response to his own bullshit attacks.
All right, so that was his first video on the issue. Let's move on to his second.
This is a classic case of projection.
Except it's not, unless you're referring to yourself. You came in with pathological aggression and then could not handle when I returned it tenfold upon you. When your petty insults of delusional and weakling, among many others, failed, you decided to implicitly threaten my life with "you should not exist."
Again, never happened. I asked him to show proof of that, and he couldn't do it. He claimed I deleted the comment, despite the fact that I showed what I actually said, which was, I can't believe people like you exist. I don't know how you function. And in his mental illness, he took that as me claiming he should not exist. Pure delusion.
Perfect. By the way, those comments you're scrolling through behind you, the ones numbered 1 through 40, are my refutation of your video rebuttal in the comments section of that video. You realized you had no response on the merits, so you projected yourself onto me, lying to yourself so you could justify your failure to respond. Then you blocked me and ran away. Well, now you get a full-scale evisceration.
No, I blocked you because you wouldn't stop tagging me and DMing me novels of insults, and you were wasting my time. And no, you weren't just responding to the video. You made many other comments, and even those like you could have just made another video if that was it. No, you made hundreds, not just 40, hundreds of comments talking absolute nonsense.
Of your insanity, point by point, for anyone with an internet connection to see. Like I said, you're going to learn. This is for everyone. Everyone you've abused on here to gratify your miserable self. It ends here.
This guy. So again, I want everybody to pay attention to this. He's claiming that I have an ego, that I'm a megalomaniac, that I am mentally ill, that all these things. And if he thinks that he's somebody who's gonna make me learn, who's going to force me to learn the lesson he thinks I need to learn, you're not going to do anything. You haven't done anything. You think that your delusional video is going to make me stop speaking out against morons like you? You think that anything you've done has remotely impacted my well-being? I forgot you even existed. Okay? What you say, what you do, amuses me at best. You're like a little fly. Okay, that it's mildly annoying at best. That's it. I'm not spiraling in some existential crisis because you make up paradoxes that don't exist, because you don't understand science or philosophy or what logic even is, and you think that you've shattered anything. All you've shattered is your own credibility. You know, I challenged you to a debate on here or TikTok, and you bitched out like the coward that you are by making bullshit excuses. If you thought I threatened you and were scared of me, you would have stopped engaging. You would have blocked me and moved on with your life. Instead, you refuse to engage me, you refuse to debate me, and all you want to do is talk shit behind the screen because you know damn well, deep down, you are incapable of actually debating anybody in real time. That's all this is. Claims that he triggered me or that I was so upset that he destroyed my worldview.
Yep, that's exactly what I claim, as I have detailed thus far. I claim this because that's what happened. My argument essentially broke your head, leading you to a spiral of fury and spite.
Again, all you guys need to hear to know that I'm telling the truth is hearing this garbage. Like, he actually thinks in his narcissism that his terrible argument broke my head and that I spiraled into vile attacks because I couldn't handle his unbeatable argument. This is narcissism and delusion at its finest.
You have no argument, so now you're posting videos that have nothing to do with the merits. And again, the humiliating irony here is that you're scrolling through my 40-part decimation of your garbage rebuttal, desperately trying to convince yourself that you didn't get royally trounced on a public forum.
You know, all his posting is him repeating the initial premises that I already destroyed to begin with. Meanwhile, he has no idea what he's talking about. He imagines paradoxes that don't exist.
You're just saying, no, you're wrong over and over and over again, hoping that people who watch this will be fooled into thinking you're making a cogent argument. I explained the origins paradox in detail in the video, bub. Your refusal to address it, or perhaps your failure to understand it, is not really my concern. But if you want to apologize for your incivility and start fresh, I'll be happy to explain it to you on your live. Until then, keep projecting your imaginations onto me. You're only...
So wait a second, because I haven't even watched this whole rebuttal thing in full. So he's saying that he'll be happy to explain it on my live, despite the fact that I've asked him to come on my live before I ended up blocking him. Yeah, sorry, Skeptic. I try to avoid doing this kind of dramatic things usually. But this guy has been harassing me for about a month. And so I had to do this at the moment. I try to stay away from drama but sometimes it's necessary to put idiots in their place. So yeah, he's claiming that he'll debate me live, but I asked him to do that, and he refused several times. And now that he's blocked and realizes that nobody cares, and people in his own comment section are, including religious people, are calling him out for being a piece of shit. Now he's trying to save face and pretend like he would have debated me live. It's just delusional.
Affirming the argument in my video. Origen's paradox exists, and it leads to the God concept. My argument establishes this. I realize this upsets you. Go talk to your therapist about all the things in reality that upset you. I'm not here to make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, especially when you come at me with demented hostility.
I provided him with other models of the universe that completely bypass any issues of origin and infinite regress.
No, you did not provide any such thing. You mentioned the possibility of a circular cosmological topology, which leads to the exact same paradox discussed in the video. As I already explained on numerous occasions, your example of a circle actually makes my argument stronger because the causal loop that occurs in a circle topology is far clearer. A leads to B and then back to A. You already acknowledged yourself that a circle topology has no beginning, which is one of the two scenarios of existence available to us through logical analysis.
Yeah, there's nothing paradoxical about this.
Not only do you not have any argument, but your statements have cemented my conclusions. But please, keep lying about the merits of your retort and projecting your immense lack of education. I guess you'll probably be able to fool at least some of your followers to keep listening to you drone on about nothing in particular. Learn to admit when you're wrong, my guy.
He ignored it and wrote about 60, 70 comments.
No, I did not ignore anything. I responded directly on your video that your circle example fits perfectly within the scenario I discussed. That is a paradoxical causal loop where A leads to B and then back to A, otherwise known as a circle. You not only ignored that, but then pretended that
I didn't ignore it. This paradox is imaginary.
It somehow supports your position, and now you're projecting your deflection onto me, all while ironically scrolling through my initial rebuttal in the background, refusing to address it. Perfect.
And my 60 to 70 comments were all in response to hundreds of your toxic ad hominem and puerile attacks.
That's another lie. For every one comment that I wrote to him, he would write 5 or 6. Like, just total. Guys, I don't know how much more you want me to go to this. There's another 20 minutes of this garbage. I mean, I feel like I've made my point, but I'm pretty happy if you guys want me to continue to get to the end of this. But just let me know if this, because I'm getting bored at this point. But
you deleted before recording this video to
I didn't delete anything. I've never deleted a comment in my life, so this is another lie.
Represent your behavior and dodge accountability. I mean, this is next level derangement on display here. As I stated.
So again, he imagines things I've said that I never said, and then claims that I deleted things to make it appear otherwise. Yeah. So Guido, he claimed the same of me after truly handing him his pre-up sandwich on a skeptic TikTokers live. He said I was hostile. In the hostility showing my weak position, that he would respond tenfold. This lunatic has a pattern of accusing anybody who calls him out for his severe ignorance as being hostile and demented. Because again, everything he's saying, it's true about him. He's functioning from a place of ego. He cannot handle criticism. He can't handle being exposed for the idiot that he is. And so he has to attack anybody that pushes back onto his bullshit as it being some kind of monster.
Stated earlier, your brand of unhinged vehemence has no place in civil discourse. Therefore, you're liable to receive far more than 60 to 70 comments if you continue with your harassment. Some people would probably just ignore and write you off as a kook, and I imagine that's largely whom you've been up against this far. If you don't want to receive more comments, then run away again. Nobody is forcing you to read or...
Nobody ran away. I asked you to debate me, you bitched out, so I was done with you.
Reply to anything. You're complaining about a reasonable reaction to your behavior so you can deflect from your megalomania and psychopathy, made all the more hilarious by your failure to realize the absurdity of such a complaint. You post hundreds of psychotic attacks and aspersions only to then whine about your opponent tearing you a new one.
You haven't tore anything. All you've done is show that you're a moron. That's all you've done. There's not much.
Just attacks and insults and
keep projecting megalomaniac. Kid calls me delusional and a weakling after losing the substantive debate, amongst hundreds of other aspersions, only to react surprised that I returned his aggression in spades.
So again, he's lying. I reacted to him in the same way that he reacted to me. He was insulting to me from the beginning. He was condescending towards me from the beginning. And I replied to his behavior with my own attacks. So what he's saying about me is what's true about him. It feels incredibly childish at this point to even have a back and forth. Yeah, Danny, you're 100% right. He's an absolute version of a Darth Dawkins, just a little less loud.
You can apparently dish it out, but when somebody takes you to task, all of a sudden you start crying and complaining about being attacked. Poor little atheist playing the victim. How many people have you maligned and disparaged to satisfy your miserable hunger for superiority? Even going to the length of mocking the mentally handicapped. If you can't control your mental affliction, you
Sorry, I already addressed this. I was never mocking the mentally handicapped. That is a complete misrepresentation of what I said. Now, I should have phrased it better, sure, but I was not mocking the mentally handicapped.
Probably should not be entering charged debates. Stay in your live where you can play dictator and abuse anyone who disagrees with you.
Anybody who's been in my life knows that I give people the chance to say what they want to say. I don't abuse anybody. I'm perfectly polite to anybody who comes on. In fact, I only kick people when they're spreading literal hate speech. That's it. So another lie based in his complete delusion.
Without consequence. Complaining about having your attacks and insults met with counterattacks is amusing, but it
Yes, exactly. That's the same thing I want to say about you.
does not remotely excuse your behavior, nor does it have anything to do with your failure to provide a valid counter argument. You realized that I was not backing down, so you got enraged and called me delusional. Right. Anyone who crushes your arguments is delusional.
No, I was never enraged. Even now, I'm at best mildly annoyed. But you're never gonna get that kind of rise out of me. Like, I might sound passionate because I'm like Italian and I speak loudly, but as far as what I'm feeling, like, you don't get a rise out of me. More than anything, I find it fascinating that somebody could be this detached from reality, that somebody could go to this level of projection. That's it. And whatever.
Perfect.
Completely delusional crap that doesn't actually address my arguments.
More breathtaking projection. The megalomania is strong in this one. I addressed your arguments point by point. When you realized that you held the losing position, you flew into a rage and started spewing ad hominem attack after ad hominem attack, calling me delusional, weakling, etc.
You know those words triggered him so bad. He just can't get over it. He just cannot get over it. Again, anybody who's questioning my role in this conversation, go to his account. Barter Outpost. He has only a few videos. Go to the one video he has up. Go to the comment section. Find my comments. You'll see who the real perpetrator of this whole thing was. I don't see myself as a victim at all. He does.
You not only vomited up veiled threats against my life through direct message, but you
never happened.
Blocked me so you could delete your comments and conceal your reprehensible.
Again, this is another complete fabrication. I didn't delete anything. First of all, you can delete a comment without blocking somebody anyway. But I blocked you because you were crazy and would not stop blowing my phone up with nonsense. And because the main reason why I blocked you, other than your threat of retaliation, whatever that meant, was the fact that you refused to debate, which at that point I have no interest in going to an endless back and forth with you. I mean, after this, and after me and Mike go over your initial delusional video, I'm done with you.
Behavior. Not cool, buddy. Not cool at all.
He thinks logic leads to contradiction, which is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in this app.
This is priceless. I explained the origins paradox in the video, and your response is, that is stupid. And then you have the gall to claim that I am ignoring your arguments? What is going on in your head? Do you know who you sound like? The kooky religiosos who call into the atheist experience only to claim that the rational arguments provided by Matt Dillahunty and company are stupid. You do realize that calling an argument stupid after failing to present any...
You didn't provide an argument. You said that something logical can come from something non-logical. You said we have to abandon logic to somehow resolve an imaginary paradox that you've made up in your head about origins, and then said that therefore it's reasonable to believe in theism. That is mind-bogglingly stupid.
Valid retort against it is basically a form of ad hominem, right?
Logical analysis of origins does lead to contradiction, as I explained in the video. Calling this fact stupid
It's not a fact, it's a delusion.
Pacify the existential crisis you're going through
There's no existential crisis whatsoever.
changes nothing.
But please, keep putting on a show for your audience. This is going to be a testament to mental affliction and disturbance in the atheist community.
Again, keep in mind this guy's megalomania. That he wants to be known as someone who exposes atheists so bad that he has to believe that his nonsense caused an existential crisis in me, because he has to feel like somebody cares about what he's doing so bad. There's part of me that genuinely feels sorry for this fool, because somebody who's okay doesn't behave in this way.
One that I sincerely hope will lead you to better your life and character.
It's just embarrassing altogether.
Yep, flying off in an enraged conniption after losing a debate on your worldview is embarrassing. Call me delusional and a weakling some more while you continue ignoring my points and call...
I will. You're delusional and you're a weakling and your argument is stupid. Actually, you don't even have an argument. You have claims and made up paradoxes.
Calling everything you dislike stupid.
Oh, and don't forget to threaten my life again and then lie about it.
Never happened, and I never lied about it. I asked you to provide evidence that happened. You couldn't. When you couldn't, instead of realizing and owning up to the fact that you misrepresented what I said, you said that I deleted or lied about it. You're the liar.
Maybe sprinkle in some more racist and ableist comments while
Never happened.
you're at it.
Are you really this low of a person to think these sorts of theatrics are remotely appropriate?
So again, I've done this many times before. If you're watching this, come onto my live.
How? After you told me I shouldn't exist and
Never said that.
blocked me? As I
I only blocked you after you said you refused to debate me.
demonstrated already, you've spewed passive-aggressive projections many times before after losing a debate, but that only exacerbates the incivility of your behavior. Again, if you apologize for your insults and threats, I will consider coming onto your live.
I will not apologize for anything. I never threatened you, number one. And what I called you is what you are. So you can kiss my ass.
I don't mind schooling you in real time, though it would be a pointless endeavor at this juncture. The burden is on you to restore civility, since you broke it first with insults of delusional and weakling. You don't
Oh, he's so triggered by those words. It's hilarious.
get to engage in such vitriol and then pretend that everything is peachy keen. Take your L's and learn when you're wrong about something.
Set up a time to come to my YouTube channel. I would love nothing more than to expose your ignorance to the world. Thank you.
Given that you're getting the thrashing of a lifetime over your untenable worldview and disgraceful threats and attacks, I'm not sure how you're...
Yeah, the fact that he thinks he's giving me the trashing of my lifetime is hilarious. Talk about ego.
exposing anything other than your own demented pathology. If it makes you feel better to just keep reversing reality, similarly to how you just kept screaming no, no, no against my arguments, go for it. Make no mistake, however, this dissection will be posted on both TikTok and YouTube so that any rational person can bear witness to your disturbance.
Okay, and that's something that I find hilarious, because this is what he said. He's getting destroyed, not just by atheists who came in my defense, but by theists who know that his description of me is completely delusional, and who saw the comments that he made first, and who are exposing him for playing the victim. So it's just hilarious.
There are consequences for your frenzied incivility.
Yeah, there are consequences. You're right, and which is exactly what you're facing now.
Others may have allowed you carte blanche up to this point without repercussions. Not this time. All right, that was his second video on the issue. As you can see, it's a hodgepodge of more deranged projection and gaslighting. Now here's his third video, continuing in the same vein.
So once again, all you're doing is projecting.
How many times do you think you need to repeat that before it becomes true? Kiddo,
It is already true. I'll repeat it until you stop projecting. And as long as you continue projecting, I'm going to tell you you're projecting.
you came onto my video with unhinged aggression and attacks.
No, I didn't. That came after you were being condescending to me.
When you realized that I wasn't backing down, you went absolutely insane, even spewing veiled threats of violence against my life through direct
So I
message.
didn't
Now
keep repeating the same shit. That never happened.
you're projecting your projections in hopes of convincing yourself and your audience of your delusions. Priceless. Again, you're certainly adept at playing the victim to avoid accountability, but you unfortunately picked the wrong person this time. Use
Again,
this as a learning experience. When megalomaniacs like you get crushed in argument, which is what happened here, they refuse to accept it. Instead, they attack and project. In your case, my video dismantled your worldview to such a profound degree that you imploded into a nervous breakdown. Even
do I look like I'm having a nervous breakdown? Like, it's amazing to me that he actually thinks that his made-up paradoxes have shattered my worldview. He needs to feel important so bad. This guy needs to feel important so bad that he had to make this entire thing attacking me and lying about who I am. But anyway, I'm almost done here.
Even copy pasting my vocabulary over and over again in the comments. And when you realized that I wasn't going to let you gratify yourself by ignoring you, you
copy and pasting your vocabulary. What are you talking about? I was scrolling to what it was that the comments you had left. What is he saying?
blocked me. Beautiful.
Okay, I'm not the one that left 60 comments between one video and the other and sent me novels of DMs.
My 60 comments were in response to hundreds of your comments attacking me, including a
And my so-called hundreds, which were not hundreds of comments attacking him, were in response to his way more comments attacking me.
torrent of DMs about how I shouldn't exist.
Never, for everything he sent in my DMs, I replied with 1 or 2 sentences. And I'll show you at the end.
You lost the argument on the merits and went bonkers. Now you're doing your best to reverse everything in some futile attempt at coping with the existential crisis you're going through.
Whining and complaining and making up false things.
What complaining? What false things? You're posting video after video about me complaining about my comments, which were all in response to your attacks and threats against me. Try to understand something, Pumpkin. When you attack someone with deranged aggression, you're going to get a forceful response in return. If that makes you feel bad, then here's an idea. Don't attack people after you lose a debate. Learn from your loss and improve your character and arguments, okay? Like, how deranged do you have to be to call someone delusional, weakling, etc. after losing a critical debate? Not to mention telling them that they shouldn't exist, only to then complain that your opponent...
So he's just going to repeat the same shit for the rest of the video. I don't feel like going through all of this. It's boring me to tears. And like, let me just see.
Return fire. You're like a belligerent drunk who starts harassing people and then gets upset when the bouncer kicks him out of the club. Like I said, you seem to have plenty of experience playing the victim when things don't go your way. Not this
total projection
time.
I already took apart your argument completely in 3 minutes.
No, you didn't. Though it's amusing, but I asked you numerous your problem, not memes equals evidence. World War II on me with your attacks, videos.
All right, so this is pointless because all he's going to do is repeat the same shit. Maybe I'll finish the part with the end of the video with Mike. Yeah, Guido, I agree with you. I think he genuinely suffers from psychosis. Like, that is what I'm gaining from this. I do want to see if I can share this other thing real quick. Let's see. Video. How do I do this? So just as a view, as a way for you guys to see the comparison between, like, the last thing he said was that I'm the one that sent him novels of DMs, as opposed to him. Just look at this video real quick. Well, here's part 2 of the same guy accusing me.
Look at all
of
that in comparison
being
to
psychologically
what I wrote.
unstable
The blue is me.
and projecting and all these
These
things.
are all his DMs.
And being
The
triggered.
blue is me.
Meanwhile, leaving me novels and novels of text through my
Do
DMs.
you guys see the difference?
Complaining and making things up. Well, here's part 2.
We'll play
of the
again.
same,
Just look at the difference.
Guy accusing me of being psychologically unstable and projecting and all these things and being triggered, meanwhile leaving me novels and novels of text through my DMs, complaining.
There you go. So that's an easy way to show what a liar he is. He claims that I sent him novels and all of the DMs. We just saw that for every sentence or paragraph that I wrote, he wrote about 6 or 7. So, all right. I think I've made my point here. There's not much, that I need to say. I'm gonna go over his original video of his so-called unbeatable argument for God on my next live. Next time I do a show with J Mike. And yeah, and I'll address the specifics of the disagreement then. But I just wanted to show you guys that when you go online, to be aware of who you're engaging with, because sometimes you're going to encounter somebody who's severely mentally ill and narcissistic, and who will project all their nonsense onto you. And this guy wasn't deserving of an hour and 40-minute video, let alone a 5-minute video. But I think it's important to show everybody what it is that can happen when you're a delusional theist who can't reason through your positions. It can result to you behaving in this way. So I want to say thanks again for everybody that came on to watch what I'm doing. And I will be back soon with another episode of Axioms on Trial. I hope you all stay safe tonight, and I will see you next time.